Hello everybody. This is the second of our seminar series, the Headlight series. We decided to call it the Headlight series because it's about shining a light on what is ahead of us. And we're also fantastic that we've got the opportunity to take our thoughts. We're based in Wellington, but we are a national organisation, and it's fantastic we've got the opportunity to take our thoughts to here, and we're also looking to run similar events around the country. I'm going to talk for about 15 minutes on why the digital economy is so important to us in New Zealand, and then I'm going to hand over to Christie, who is going to talk about how he's made a successful global business while being based in New Zealand. I'll start with a quote from my favourite author, Lewis Carroll, when Alice meets the Cheshire Cat. Alice says to the Cheshire Cat, "Would you please tell me which way I ought to go from here?" "Well, that depends a good deal on where you want to get to," said the cat. "I don't care much where," said Alice. "Then it doesn't matter which way you go," said the cat. "As long as I get somewhere," said Alice. "Oh, you're sure to do that," said the cat, "if only you walk long enough." And I think as a country, New Zealand needs to work out where we actually do want to walk to as the world becomes much more connected. This is a graphic from 2003, which was put together hypothesizing if the world were a village of 100 people, what would it look like? And you can see that our part of the world, peoples of the Pacific, which includes the Pacific Islands, Australia, New Zealand, and probably a generous part of Borneo and Indonesia as well, would make up one of those 100 people in this village. The reality is that the world is a village now. Most of you participate and communicate with people in other parts of the world on a daily basis. You'll have children or you'll have grandchildren who will be living in different cities, in different countries. You used to write them letters, now you talk to them on Skype. You are part of discussions groups on Facebook. So the world is actually a village of 100 people. And the question for New Zealand is, what's our position or our role in that village? So firstly, I'm going to give you a tour of the village, talk a bit about where we are in New Zealand, then talk about what success could look like. The world is 7 billion people, and it's becoming increasingly urban. So more and more people, you can see the top dark blue on that screen is urban, less developed, urban in less developed countries, rural in less developed countries. So the less developed countries, which are the purple and the blue, or the dark blue and the light blue, are the bulk of the world's population, and most of that is becoming urban. And what happens with urban is you also end up with an emerging middle class as well. So they start consuming middle class goods and services. Secondly, global economic power is shifting. By 2050, you'll see that we've got China in first place, India in third place, Brazil in fourth place, Mexico in fifth place. So the countries that traditionally have been driving economic power and economic activity will no longer be in the driving seat. And as I was mentioning earlier, the global middle class is rapidly expanding. And the good news from New Zealand's point of view is a large amount of that global middle class is very close to us. So this new village, firstly it's global, secondly it's digital, and thirdly it's a single platform for innovation. If we look at the globalization, we've seen that wealth has globalized. We've seen some of the upsides and some of the downsides of that recently, and we've seen a lot of challenges that can only be fixed on a global basis. And so we've seen the emergence of trying to build consensus unsuccessfully on climate change, peak oil, religious conflict, financial stability, natural disasters. All these things are global things that need global solutions. What the challenge is, of course, that there are no global solutions sitting there. And so what we're seeing is increasingly we're looking at trying to solve global problems and also trying to focus on local solutions. But everything is connected. Secondly, everything is digital. Information is available anywhere in the world at any time, instantly, at zero cost, in any language. That last bit isn't quite true. So anybody anywhere in the world can be watching this, me speaking now. It is live, it is on the internet. We're not there yet, but fairly soon they will also be able to put a natural language translator, which means that they'll be able to hear me in Arabic at the time I'm speaking. But all those other things, anywhere in the world, anytime, instantly, at zero cost. And what that means for people who are in information industries is the whole thing's getting turned upside down. Whether you're in publishing and books or music or in television, that whole industries are changing. People are looking for new business models. But the advantage for New Zealand is if we can design and build a product, we can sell it to the world. We don't have to sell it just to New Zealand. In the 20th century, the internet was about consuming. It was about us sitting in front of our screens and reading information. The 21st century is the opportunity for us to actually be creative and give information and products and services back. It's the opportunity for two-way communication. Ultra-fast broadband is going to allow us not just to watch streaming videos, but also to create products and services in New Zealand and sell them to the world. And that market is accessible from anywhere, and it's the biggest opportunity for New Zealand since we first managed to work out how to get our produce to Europe in the refrigerated ships more than 130 years ago. This is a picture from The Economist that was that really attracted me. It's gone. Do we know why it's gone, Don? We had a. Did you pay them copyright fees for it? I'll come back to that because I have got a picture of it again later on. Okay, so that's the world. That's the opportunity. We've got 7 billion people. 1.5 billion of them are on the internet. Rapidly growing middle class, wanting to buy products and services. Where are we in New Zealand? Well, this is the most sobering graph that I've seen, and this basically says how many people are there in New Zealand for every 10 people aged 65 and over. So you'll see that now, for every 10 people aged 65 or over, there's about 56 people in working age able to support us. Previously, in the 50s, there were 70 people for every 10 people aged 65 or over. And in 40 years' time, there will only be 24 people. So the situation is we are going to have to, these 24 people are going to have to work very, very hard to keep those 10 people in any form of social living context, which means that we can no longer carry on doing the things that we have been doing. We need to do something different. That's not sustainable. Those 24 people need to earn income outside New Zealand if we're going to continue to be as wealthy as we are. This is a graph which shows something that's called E-intensity, which effectively is how good are countries at operating in the digital world. New Zealand's about halfway down on the left-hand side, squashed between Belgium and Ireland. And what makes that up is the really exciting story. There are 3 components that make up that index. The first component is engagement. How well do New Zealanders individually and personally use the internet? And the answer is very, very well indeed. Top 5. So the programs that we were hearing about earlier about computers in homes, stepping up, our education system, we are digitally a very competent nation. Secondly, how well enabled are we? That is, what sort of infrastructure have we got? What sort of broadband? What sort of connectivity? And what we see here is we're in the middle of the pack. So we're quite proud of the fact that we're investing massively in broadband. We overlook the fact that most other countries are investing massively in broadband. That might move us up a bit, but we're not going to be anywhere like the Hong Kongs or the Koreas or anything like that. And then the middle one is how good are we at making money out of our digital infrastructure? And the answer is not very good. So we've got some very skilled people who are very good at using the internet in their personal life. We've got some good infrastructure, but we're not managing to turn it into an economic success story. This is the graph I was going to show you earlier, which is an interesting indication of what's called the Earth's economic centre of gravity. So if you were to match up all the activity that took place in the world economically and look at how it moved over the last 2,000 years, for the most part of the first 1,000 of the last 2,000 years, the Earth's economic centre of gravity was somewhere over the border of Afghanistan, India, Iraq, and Russia. And that reflected the Ottoman Empire, the Ottoman Empire, the Mughal Empire. This is where most of the activity happened. Round about between 1500 and 1800 it moved up, and in the first half of the 20th century it was in Europe, moved over the US, and since the last 50 years it's been gradually moving back this way, which reflects the fact that the centre of gravity is shifting to places like China and India. Internet New Zealand just commissioned a report about what is the impact of the internet going to be on economies. Probable impact of between 5 and 9% increase in GDP, dependent on internet uptake, and there are further gains that aren't captured in purely economic statistics. And the second report was that distance will continue to matter, and so falling communications costs were likely to have a greater impact on New Zealand than on most other OECD countries. So you put all that together, you say, short story. We're going to need to earn money offshore in order to keep us alive. We've got some very good people, some goodish infrastructure, and we're not very good at monetizing it. And it's going to get easier because the centre of gravity is coming closer towards us. So what do we need to do in order to achieve in this new global village? Well, the first thing is we need to be noticed. And if you're thinking about the world, what is it New Zealand is what do people think of as New Zealand? We could be off the radar completely. We could be known, as we are now, as a primary producer. We're better at food and exporting lamb and dairy produce. That's what the world knows us. We could be known as a tourist destination. We could be known as a rest home. We could be the place where rich Asian nations send their elderly relatives to be looked after in their retirement. Or we could be an innovator and niche player. We could build on the success of Lord of the Ring. We could build on the success of some of our software companies who are already building products and services that they're selling online on the internet. Here's an example. This is a website called Read Write Web. Google do something called a page rank, which tells you how popular the website is in the world. The top website in the world has a page rank of 9, and there's not very many of them. New Zealand's largest top-ranking website, TradeMe, ranks as a 7. Read Write Web is a website that was started by Richard McManus in Lower Hutt. It's now read around the world. It's got a page rank of 8. And it's one of the major websites that people go to find out tech news. So there's an example of somebody who's effectively set up a global business from within New Zealand. We have a number of advantages in this new global world. We are seen as an honest broker between major players. So if you take some of the leading roles it's taken, whether it's Helen Clark at the United Nations, Michael Moore at the WTO, we seem to be quite good at helping these people talk to each other. We are well recognised for our trust and integrity. We have a stable legal and financial system. We have got a solid base for a sustainable economy, and we've got a lifestyle that's only going to increase in attractiveness. So we've got some competitive advantages if we want to build a new future for ourselves. This graphic indicates, this one hasn't transferred well, has it? This graphic indicates Vertical axis is digital to physical goods. Horizontal axis is between domestic and global. So if we take Fonterra, mostly physical goods, mostly global. If we take TradeMe, mostly digital goods, mostly domestic. Most New Zealand businesses are down here at the moment. Most New Zealand businesses are buying, building and selling physical goods domestically. Place where we need to be is up in that top right-hand corner, where we're selling globally with digital products, whether it's a Xero or a Weta or Arts and Letters Daily or Read White Web. What do we need in order to do that? We need 6 attributes. We need to think globally. We need to be networked. We need to be networked so we understand how to operate with other people, both physically and culturally. We need to be adaptive and agile, ability to be able to respond rapidly when opportunities are there. We need to be innovative and creative. We need to think of how we can do things differently. We need to have a vision about where we're going to be and a niche that says we are going to do this and we're going to do it better than anybody else in the world. We can't just be the best in New Zealand anymore. We have to be the best in the world. And we need to have the courage to go out there and do it. Which brings me very, very nicely on to the main speaker for today, Don Christie. Don has got these 6 attributes. And he has been successful in setting up a globally successful business out of New Zealand. He founded Catalyst about 15 years ago, and he's now going to tell us the story about how he's done that and why it's been successful. So please join me in welcoming Don to the stage.